I still remember the sound of the room that day, the way everyone went silent when he said those words. You're fired. Two simple words, but they tore through me like glass. I was standing in the middle of a glass-walled boardroom, every executive's eyes fixed on me. The man across the table, Ethan Reed, the CEO of Reed Dynamics, didn't even blink as he ended my career with a cold smirk. I had given this company 7 years of my life. Days, nights, weekends, sacrifices no one even knew about. I handled his presentations, secured clients he couldn't charm himself, and held the company together when it nearly collapsed during a financial scandal. But none of that mattered now. He didn't just fire me, he performed it, like a show. "Miss Carter," he said, "after reviewing the recent audit, it seems your department failed to meet its quarterly goals. As head of operations, this falls on you." I wanted to explain that the numbers were deliberately delayed, that the audit was a setup, but the way he looked at me, detached, almost pleased, told me this was planned long before today. He wanted a public humiliation, and he got one. When I opened my mouth to defend myself, Ethan raised a hand. "You've already done enough damage. Security will escort you out." My heart pounded. I could hear whispers, murmurs, people I once called colleagues leaning toward each other. That was the day I realized loyalty means nothing to people drunk on power. I walked out carrying a cardboard box with a few photos and a note I once wrote to myself. Don't let anyone silence your worth. Outside, it was raining. The sky mirrored my mood. I stared at my reflection in the glass doors. Broken, small, powerless. Ethan Reed wasn't just my boss. He was someone I once believed in, someone I helped build. And now, he erased me with one sentence. That night, I sat in my small apartment replaying every word he said. It wasn't about failure. It was personal. He wanted me gone. But why? Weeks later, while scrolling through the news, I saw it. Reed Dynamics had just signed a $120 million deal with Vantech Systems, the same deal I had spent months negotiating. He hadn't fired me for failing. He fired me to take credit for my success. That realization didn't just hurt. It rewired something inside me. For the first time, I didn't cry. I planned. I started over quietly, consulting for startups, rebuilding my network, reading about him in magazines. He was celebrated as a visionary. I knew better. Every headline felt like fuel. A year later, I got a call from Victoria Arden of Arden Holdings. She wanted to meet. During that meeting, she asked, "You worked under Ethan Reed, right?" When I nodded, she smiled. "Good, because we're about to buy him out." She told me Reed Dynamics was collapsing internally. The board was divided, investors restless, Ethan losing control. She needs someone who knows the company inside out, someone like you. That night, I couldn't sleep. The man who destroyed my life was about to hand it back to me. And this time, I wasn't the same woman he fired. I was the storm he created. 2 years after that day, I returned to Reed Dynamics, not as an employee, but as the woman sent to buy it. The glass building still stood tall, but it looked smaller now. The elevator walls reflected someone Ethan would no longer recognize. In the boardroom, when our eyes met again, he froze. My nameplate read, Alexandra Carter, Strategic Director, Arden Holdings. He said slowly, "I didn't expect to see you here." I smiled. Life has its surprises, doesn't it? The meeting began. I sat quietly as Victoria spoke, but I could feel his gaze. When it was my turn, I stood and said, "Our objective isn't to erase your legacy, Mr. Reed. It's to ensure it doesn't collapse under its own ego. The silence was sharp. His jaw tightened. The first cut was made. Later in the hallway, he cornered me. If this is some kind of game, I interrupted. Games are for people who still care. I'm here because I'm good at what I do, and apparently, your company needs saving. He studied me and said, "You haven't changed." I smirked. "You have no idea how much I have." Over the next few weeks, I moved like a shadow. I watched, listened, gathered allies. Maya from finance was tired of Ethan's control. David, his old friend on the board, was leaking data. Claire, his assistant, looked like I once did. Nervous, overworked, terrified. I saw myself in her. Then one night, while reviewing files, I found it. A hidden transfer linking company funds to a fake consultancy firm under Ethan's name. It was subtle, but it was there. The proof I needed. I smiled quietly. "You taught me how to fight dirty, Ethan. Now I'll teach you how to lose quietly." The next weeks became a silent war. I started small, earning trust, asking questions, planting seeds. Ethan had built his empire on fear. I built mine on loyalty. Soon, people came to me for advice instead of him. In meetings, I asked precise questions that made him squirm. "Mr. Reed, how do we plan to handle the internal debt transfers from Vantech's old contracts?" He brushed it off, but the board noticed. Whisper spread. Rumors grew. I didn't accuse him of anything. I didn't need to. Suspicion did the work. He began to unravel, locking doors, making late-night calls, lashing out at staff. I met with the board privately, framing my concerns as care. The empire began to collapse under its own secrets. Then came the audit. The findings exposed fraudulent transfers under Ethan's signature. When the chairman announced his suspension, Ethan's face drained. He turned to me. "You did this." I met his eyes. "No, Ethan. You did this to yourself." Weeks later, the board named me acting CEO. The same room that had once watched me fall now applauded my rise. Ethan stood at the back, stunned, defeated. I sat in his old chair, expecting triumph, but feeling weight instead. Power earned through pain doesn't taste sweet. It tastes heavy. I opened every file he had buried, spoke to every employee he had silenced, and rebuilt the company with honesty. I was fixing what he broke. But at night, staring out at the skyline, I felt something else. Emptiness. Revenge had closed one door, but opened another. One evening, Ethan walked in. Gone was the arrogance. He looked human. He said, "You think running this company makes you better than me?" I replied, "No. It's about fixing what you broke." He laughed bitterly. "Power changes people. It'll change you, too." I looked at him, maybe. But the difference is, I know what it's like to lose it all. You never did. He whispered, "You were always supposed to be my right hand, not my replacement." I answered softly, "You should have thought about that before you cut off the hand that built you." He left, and that was the last time he walked into this building. Under my leadership, Reed dynamics changed. We rebuilt trust, reopened programs, and made the company human again. The media called me the comeback CEO. People admired my strength, but they didn't know how lonely it felt. Some nights I'd walk through empty halls, remembering the girl who once stood here crying. I wanted to tell her it was going to be okay, that the pain would one day turn into power. But power comes with a price. The silence after success can be louder than the chaos before it. I had control, but I'd lost balance. Maya once said, "You remind me of him sometimes." That scared me. I began to realize revenge had made me careful, but also cold. I'd built an empire out of pain, but pain requires maintenance. Victoria Arden warned me, don't let revenge be the only story you tell. That night, her words echoed. Who was I now, if not the woman Ethan destroyed? So I changed again. I delegated, reconnected, reopened scholarships for young women, and smiled again. This time, genuinely. Maybe true revenge wasn't destroying him. Maybe it was becoming everything he failed to be. Then one evening, my assistant walked in. "Someone's here to see you," she said. "It's Ethan Reed." My breath caught. When he walked in, I barely recognized him. His eyes were tired, his pride gone. "You look different," I said. "You mean older?" he replied. I didn't smile. He said, "I came to apologize." And for the first time, he meant it. He admitted the truth, the guilt, the regret. He handed me a small box. It was the silver pen I lost the day he fired me. "You kept this?" I asked. "I thought about throwing it away," he said, "but I couldn't." I told him people change, but consequences don't. He nodded. "I already live with them." As he turned to leave, he said softly, "You won, Alex." I shook my head. This wasn't about winning. It was about surviving. Then he walked out, a ghost finally at peace. That night, I realized forgiveness wasn't for him. It was for me. Because the only way to truly defeat your ghosts is to stop letting them live inside you. Weeks later, a letter arrived from him. He wasn't asking for forgiveness. He was asking for help. He wanted to start a mentorship program for failed entrepreneurs. He had no resources, no contacts, just sincerity. Part of me wanted to throw the letter away. Another part saw what Victoria once told me. This isn't about him. It's about who you want to be now that the war is over. So I met him. I told him I'd help, but only under one condition. He'd work for the foundation, start from the bottom, no ownership, no spotlight. "You trust me enough to do that?" he asked. "I don't trust you." I said, "I trust time." He smiled for the first time, not arrogantly, just humanly. "Then I'll earn it," he said. From then on, he worked quietly. Reports with his initials appeared from times. He taught others how to rebuild, and I finally slept peacefully. Because revenge gave me justice, leadership gave me power, but choice gave me peace. 5 years later, Reed Dynamics was a new world. The same halls that once echoed with fear now rang with laughter. I replaced the CEO desk with an open workspace. When young employees asked if the stories were true that the CEO once took down her own boss, I smiled and said, "Not every battle needs destruction. Some just need courage." Ethan never returned to fame, but through the foundation, his name found redemption. Sometimes I saw his initials on reports and felt calm. On the 5th anniversary of our rebuilding, I stood before my employees and said, 5 years ago, this company lost its soul, but we found it again, not through power or profit, but through people. I once thought revenge was justice, but real justice is creating something better than what broke you. The applause that followed wasn't loud. It was warm. That evening, I went to the rooftop as the sun set. I placed that old silver pen on the railing. It wasn't a reminder of pain anymore. It was proof of survival. I whispered, "You did it. You didn't just rise. You transformed." Because in the end, I hadn't just become the new CEO. I had become my own story, a story where betrayal birthed strength, anger turned into leadership, and revenge evolved into purpose. Legacy isn't about being remembered. It's about what continues quietly because of you. And if anyone ever asks what mine is, I'll tell them my legacy isn't that I took revenge on the man who broke me. It's that I built a world where no one else has to. And just like that, the story that began with humiliation in the rain ended beneath a sky full of light, not because I erased the past, but because I finally learned how to live beyond it.